I think a lot of it's lead by example. For me, I like to show as part of my teaching. And, I think there's also putting key folks in place so that way they can multiply your knowledge, right? So it's
Right.
like if you've taught one and they can teach many more, like then it helps that. But I think the lead by example also goes into positivity, into the way that you carry yourself. Yes, every day is not rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. But having that or that outward facing out of it, and being able to get up every day anew helps, because it's not just helping you, it helps everybody else to want to do what they do amazing every single day.
Welcome to Future Driven. I'm Adam Kopp, and on this podcast, I talk with entrepreneurs and industry professionals about the challenges and the wins in their business. See the vision, drive the future. Okay, so welcome to episode 15 with Ed Cinefro. Ed, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I appreciate your time, Ed. So, Ed, you are Vice President of Access Marketing Company.
Yes.
Based out of
Denver, Colorado.
Nice. And Ed and I worked together. I should have asked you before we started this, but do you know how long ago that was? I'm blanking.
Oh, gosh. It's probably 14, 15 years ago is when we started working together.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So 15 years ago, Ed and I were at a company called RPM Advertising out of Chicago, Illinois. And we worked together as art. Were you an art director at that time as well?
I was, yeah.
Okay, so we're both art directors working on various accounts, and I've always been a big fan of the work that you've done, Ed. So we've kind of followed each other's careers, and now you're in this great spot in Denver and at Access Marketing. So that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been quite a ride. And yeah, you were definitely there at the beginnings of it all, at least for me, because that's where I started. That's where I cut my chops, was at RPM. Honestly, I came out of college and had my portfolio review, and creative director from there came through and really said, here's my card, call me on Monday or whatever it was. And came in for an interview and got hired immediately after. So it was a very fast process from transitioning from education to career. That's where we made a lot of things for some pretty big clients there in Chicago, which was pretty awesome. And I remember some late nights spending with you, toiling through a bunch of different creatives and concepts. And, that was the days when we had to tear down actual presentation boards and actual, storyboards that were physically put together because the partners had to, jump on a plane the next day and fly to wherever and present. And so it was very I feel like it was the end of that Mad Men era of that kind of stuff. Like I need to physically show something in a presentation with a client. And then we kind of all went digital and full internet and the whole works. So,
I mean, you're so right. I mean, there was, I kind of tell some stories. I mean, we used to work some ridiculous hours. I mean, it was not uncommon to be there well past dinner, into the evening, into past midnight. I mean, with different pitches. And so, I mean, we don't work like that here at our company. And I don't think you do either. Are those days just gone and it's just not the speed is there now? You don't need to do that anymore?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's definitely the recollection that I have is you don't leave until your creative director leaves. So that was a big
Larry
deal.
Never left.
No, he never left. He just lived there, I think. Yeah. I know at that time I was a commuter to Chicago. So, because I lived out in the burbs. And there was many a time when I missed the last train out of town and had to sleep on a couch or under a desk or wherever the heck I could find a spot at that time. And I remember people like other designers, hopping on the L and essentially running, riding the L all night long because they had fallen asleep on it or things like that. So yeah, definitely a different time, different mindset. I don't know if those agencies still exist. I haven't come across one in my travels that was like that anymore.
Yeah, so, it was a crazy, because I'm coming up on about, similar to you, my first job was at RPM, and I'm coming up on, I think, about 20 years from when I first started, was hired by Larry. And but yeah, it's a whole different that's a whole different world. And this kind of spurred a quick memory that I want to say, like, you said you got hired by a referral to a professor or from a professor?
No. John Monlock, he walked through the portfolio review. So we had like a portfolio show. And I think I was probably one of the few people who actually had sellable designs. Like, so many people are very like, I'm super artsy and things like that. And I really went on the advertising front very full bore. And yeah, it was John, and I can't remember who the other person was, came through the show, and he literally just handed me his card, and I called him and got the job.
Where was this? Was that university?
That was Columbia College, Chicago.
Okay, nice.
Right there in the Loop. So not too far away from the office. So it was probably an easy hike for them or whatever it was to come check us out. But
no, that's awesome. Well, the really quick, the story I was going to say was I spent about 6 months trying to apply for jobs online because I was living in the suburbs at the time. And then finally I put together a list of like 60 something companies that I wanted to like pitch to. And I literally had my sister drop me off in the north end of Chicago, and I walked and I knocked on as many places as possible. And RPM was the 50th place that I was able to at least get in the door and drop off my resume. And then I got a call back like 2 days later. And that story is always sticks with me because it took me, I sat forever, 6 months thinking I was doing the right thing. And then all it did was take me to just get on the streets and just start hustling. And then it took to the very last one of that day at like 6 p.m. or something. But yeah, so but that started a whole career for both of us. And so what happened for you? How long were you at RPM, and where did you transition after that?
Sure. So when I was at RPM for probably about 3 years or so, and then I kind of got into a completely different world. I went into the marketing of continuing medical education is kind of where I went into with a company that no longer exists in the world, MedEd Architects. And we'd create curriculums and marketing to drive people to attend them. And it was a partnership with a lot of the big medical groups. So it'd be like the ADA or the AAFP or things like that. So I remember, first thing, got in the job, and they're like, we're flying to New Orleans. And I was like, okay, great. Like, I'll go to New Orleans. And went there, did a whole video shoot, did with like commentators and hosts and all this kind of stuff. And so that was kind of got thrown directly into that world, didn't know anything about it. But I think what it did was it got me really interested in the more complex story, because not that we didn't do great work at RPM or something, but it's business to consumer is where RPM lives, and a lot in kind of auto and casino and things like that. And getting into, I need to talk about this highly technical stuff, but also get the attention of highly intelligent people. These are PhDs and things like that. Was just, it's a different mindset. It's a different style of marketing. And I think it really got me into that world that I hadn't considered before.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So what years was that?
Gosh, I feel like I should have had my like LinkedIn resume up at the same time because I don't remember.
Let's see. You were at RPM like 2005 till 8, somewhere in there. And then you were with these guys for a couple of years, I presume.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was with them for a couple of years. And then after that, I actually went back to consumer land. I spent a stint at another company that doesn't exist anymore. Maybe that's my track record, is like they don't exist anymore.
There's a trend here.
But it was called Omnibus Advertising. They were in Arlington Heights, Illinois. And they did back to auto. That was my like way in. They did auto and convenience stores, which we also did at RPM. Like we used to do White Hen and things like that. So it was doing Speedway gas stations and their convenience stores, and I can't remember what the other were.
Just so we kind of know, what was your day to day? Were you continuing to be art director? At what point were you become the creative director?
Sure. So creative director actually happened later in career, like all the way when I got here into Colorado. So I was, in this case, all art director or senior designer, things like that. So physically touching all the creative, so designing it from concept to final product. Obviously, as you get further in your career, you're creating the spark or initial piece and then passing it off to junior folks to kind of build the library that you need. Like I need to run 1 million ads, or I need to, whatever it may be. So that's where I kind of.
Do you feel like you have a style of design? What is your niche inside of the graphic design, inside of the art direction world? Is it typography? Is it illustration? Is it, what is it that you like to do, or what have you found in your career?
Sure. So I think throughout time, I've realized that I am a good chameleon. I've realized this. So my style is moldable to whatever the client requires, rather than being the kind of forefront of creative inspiration, which I think is something that you do very well, that I'm very inspired by. But I'm good at aggregating all the inputs that I've had throughout life and creating a solid design and message off of that knowledge base and inputs. So I'm not going to be the one who's going to be like, you know what, for Pepsi, we should start using a cow. And the cow is going to say whatever it says. That's not me.
Well, the best thing is what you're good at, and what. So at what point, I guess, did you make that trip to the mountains in Colorado and start your career out there?
Well, between there, I moved to Ohio, where in the Columbus market, and worked for a B2B agency, working on a lot of tech clients, a lot of automation, manufacturing. Then I went to I went corporate side, actually. I went to the dark side, and got into actually your former world, which was apparel, which I know you know very well.
Yep.
Back from rugby days and things like that. But, there's got into all of that, sports apparel.
Who did you work for then?
There I worked for Aerie Sportswear. So we focused on smaller teams. So like high school, middle school, some lower end college kind of stuff, and gearing up the whole team with not just their uniforms, but also all their
track suits
but they're also their fan apparel, right? So their t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. And then we also had another arm that was on custom tie-dyeing. So it was Dynamite is that company, and they do various different tie-dye stylings with different types of dyes that might also work well with like black lights or neons or things like that. So it's kind of neat stuff there. And then I got out of Ohio altogether, and made my trip out west, left the Midwest, and made it here. And I did right off the bat worked with IBM Watson Health, which was an interesting world because it's a startup inside of a very tenured company, as IBM is, but the health arm was relatively new because they were leveraging things that they had created for the parent, like Watson, into the health scheme. So how can AI help get better data on anything from, so if I read scans across time, I could see that there's going to be a cancer issue in this patient or things like that, which is kind of fascinating stuff. And then came here to Access Marketing Company. We're doing all B2B marketing for the most part. We have a couple of consumer clients, but mostly all B2B marketing, and running very high touch, bespoke and far-reaching campaigns to a variety of clients, mostly in the IT, telecom, and health IT space.
Okay, cool. So you've been there. What year did you move to Access?
I've been here for 3 years now. So
Okay.
what is that? 2019, 18, end of 18.
Nice. Okay. And I don't know if we covered this, but you I said vice president, but you had a longer title than that. Vice president of.
Yeah. So I realized, so my title is vice president of service delivery.
Okay.
And what I realized was my passion wasn't necessarily in necessarily the doing of the creative anymore, or less so,
Sure.
but more of like, how do I enable teams? How do I find great talent out there in the land? How do I make everybody so much more effective at what they're doing? So whether that's tools, personnel, processes, is where I've been really enjoying my time.
Awesome. Well, that's great, man. Well, we got to catch up when I was in Denver. I guess it probably about 2 years ago now. And I got to see the office space and good sized company and the creative stuff that you're doing, looking on the website and everything. It looks really good. So what does today look like? Not physically today, but like, what is your day to day? How big is your team? Are you predominantly client facing? Are you running your internal team? Kind of what does your day-to-day life look like?
Sure. So it's probably, my day-to-day right now is probably about 50% client facing and 50% internal. It will transition to being mostly internal facing, but the team, actually, you would be surprised even from when you last came, our business spiked tremendously. So we are now probably about 25 plus employees now. Nice. And rapidly growing even more so. The sad or positive note, I guess, out of the pandemic and things like that were that our mixture of clients grew tremendously during the pandemic timeframe, and the need became so much greater that it actually helped us out where it might have hurt other agencies. So we're very fortunate for that. But where we focus a lot is on key account marketing and ABM. So really getting into not just, I have this list of amazing logos that I'd like to work with as far as our clients go. I'd love to get Apple as a client. I'd love to get Google as a client or things like that. But really trying to find out what types of clients close for a client. Why do they close? Who are those types of people? And then doing some really in-depth research on those specific individuals and doing, like I said, high-touch marketing to those specific individuals based on the pain points that they're even sometimes self-identifying through different ways. So it's really rewarding then to see we can find specific individuals, market, and convert them, which is pretty amazing.
Okay. Cool. So one of the things I always like to, and you're perfect for this question because of your position, is like, how do you describe your leadership style? How do you motivate your team? How do you, how do you keep them going? And so without doing the work yourself and
Sure.
and things like that.
I think a lot of it's lead by example for me. So I like to show as part of my teaching, and I think there's also putting key folks in place so that way they can multiply your knowledge, right? So it's like if you've taught one and they can teach many more, like then it helps that. But I think the lead by example also goes into positivity, into the way that you carry yourself. Yes, every day is not rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. But having that or that outward facing out of it, and being able to get up every day anew helps, because it's not just helping you, it helps everybody else to want to do what they do amazing every single day. So I also think that touch points in communication are key, like especially in this world of digital, and like we're all having to do things via Zoom or whatever it is, knowing that you've got remote workforce, keeping tabs with them. Hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Like that goes so far with employees to making sure that they produce the best work that they can. Because like I said, every day is not wonderful. And sometimes it's just, I need somebody to talk to about that thing.
Sure. So are you, what percentage are you guys back in the office versus remote?
So we're about 50%.
Okay. And so, typical agency pre-COVID, you do a lot of team gatherings. You guys are a smaller company. How are you, keeping the culture up with your remote team, and how does that? How do you plan to keep that up in the future, especially as you grow? Because the remote life is a real thing for people.
Absolutely. So I have set up kind of, I call them creative conversations. So I set up regular kind of group, almost group therapy, I suppose, to some level. Yeah. It's like, bring some great ideas. Let's talk about these things. Let's critique each other's work. Let's even just bond. And they,
sorry, Ed. Keep going though.
Okay. They, it's part of that camaraderie out of it that I think is super important. Obviously, yes, there are things that you physically just can't do. Like you can't go have a happy hour all together and things like that. But we have done it where everybody's having a remote happy hour together as a team. So I think there are ways around it. Is it as ideal as the in-person? No, absolutely not. But and there's definitely days that we also do as a team that bring us together even more so. So we do volunteer days for things like Habitat for Humanity or a food bank or things like that. And for the remote folks, it's please find one in your area. We're not going to fly folks from New York to Colorado to participate in one here, but why not do one where you are? And we're happy for you to take the day off and give back to your local community. So
nice. I like that. Cool. So what's the future look like for Access Marketing and/or Ed Cinefro?
That's a great question.
Let's start with Access Marketing. What do you see over the next 5 years for the company's growth? And you touched base on a little bit, but maybe you could revisit what are the industries that you guys focus on, size of company, and you threw a couple acronyms out there that might not everybody know exactly what That's it fair. Means. How do you simplify? What is it that Access Marketing does?
Sure. So the areas that we play best in, we can play beyond it, but where we play best in is IT, telecom, and healthcare IT.
Okay.
We do look for clients with a fairly substantial marketing budget. So typically most of our clients are somewhere in the range of $250,000 plus, typically on just the spend to us, like just our marketing budgets to us.
Right.
They're running, then we are doing ABM, which is account-based marketing.
Yep.
So we're finding either the accounts are provided to us, which works and doesn't work sometimes, and we vet those things, or we create a ICP, an ideal client profile, with the help of the client, to ensure that we're marketing to the right size company and ones that fit the needs that our client can fulfill. So, for example, if a large company needs, it's noted that they need a cybersecurity solution, and our client provides a great quality cybersecurity solution, then it makes sense for us to go market that to them. And there are things that might happen that are indicators that might be a need as well, even if they haven't flagged it out. For example, it's been noted that X company has had a breach due to something. Like, that's happened a lot with COVID, right? So we now, once everybody went remote, we have opened up many doors into our organizations rather than singular that's all behind firewalls and all protected inside of corporate structure. So cybersecurity has become a huge topic and a huge need for corporations when their workforce is all over the place.
Right.
So anyway, so we have that. Then we go through and do everything that standard good marketers do. We want to look at who the audience is, what message makes sense for them, and then we create marketing campaigns. There's always air cover marketing campaigns that are more general, and then going after key accounts or key targets, to having more focused marketing, so sales outreach, social outreach, things like that, to convert those accounts or those leads specifically.
Nice. So then I appreciate you kind of doubling back and giving us a little bit of overview. I think that helps. And so what do you anticipate? A whole bunch of growth here in the next future? Man, I put up this fancy camera ad for this podcast and it keeps going out on me. So we're just going to go to you, but
that's fine.
So what does the next 5 years look like for Access?
Busy. So we are building out the team even more so, like I mentioned previous. I have no doubt we will probably double in size as an organization to support everybody we have today and everybody we will have tomorrow. There's a lot more focus in obviously in the data, right? We've been living in this world of big data for quite some time, but what is that? Can we utilize that data? How can we utilize that data? How can we track conversions? How can we tell when people fall off? What things work? What things don't work? So, I think we've historically in marketing, we've talked about it very high level, and it hasn't been actionable in many cases, or theoretical in some cases. So what we do differently, I would say, than most agencies is we get into it all the way down to the sales conversations that the reps are having. But we get into the marketing automation platforms. We make sure that the thing is connecting to the thing that is connected to the thing, that we're tracking the lead scoring and things like that. So, I used to have it back in the day, I'm sure you have too, where success was marked by client came back again and wanted more work from us, and not by actual results. And so being a results-based company and being able to deliver on that is very refreshing and awesome.
But that kind of shows you how much data points have become available in the last 15 to 20 years because of this huge shift to digital. Because, 15 years ago, we were designing billboards. Exactly. And so what could it was good creative and the client's happy, so they want another one. or whatever. There's a lot of point of sale stuff. There wasn't like these metrics is what you're talking about, where now you can actually track a campaign all the way through, show success, make adjustments, and then refine that. And that's the advantage of having a group like yours that stays on for a long period of time as well, because you start to see trends and you've got some niches and industries and so forth. So that's great. So if anybody listening or watching are looking for a job, Ed's going to have some job openings over there in the next couple of years. And so if you want to live in beautiful Colorado, then that's the place to go, or remote, right?
Or remote. Yeah, exactly.
Now, is that a new thing for Access Marketing because of COVID, or were you guys already remote? Part remote.
We had a few that were remote, but I think the wave was something that it didn't hinder us any. It was just it was a modification, right? So like I mentioned, how do you do togetherness? How do you do even just basic things, right? Like we have a great program every single year where we give out thank you cards to an employee that's done, like every employee gets these thank you cards. And they can turn them in if they receive one from somebody, they can turn them in for a gift card as part of the organization, right? It's fun. And you write a little special message, like you went out of your way to do whatever it is, and thank you very much. It's a great program, but obviously you have to modify it differently. Like, I have to now mail out these cards ahead of time to somebody and provide stamped envelopes for them to send them back, or things like that. So it's just a modification. You just figure it out. So we don't care where you are now in this new age. But yeah, it's an adjustment.
Cool. Well, I think there's gonna be a lot of good that comes out of it. And, my company in particular has gone fully remote, and I intend on keeping it that way. Just because it works for us, and I think it works for people. And I think they'll have a core group in the office, but we're just not quite there yet anyways. But yeah, no, this is great. So what about you personally, Ed? Give us a little bit of insight. What does your next 5 years look like? Obviously, as senior leader, I presume, over at Access. Are you a big part of the growth and the hiring process and just the trajectory of where the company is looking to go? You intend to be there for a while, I presume?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely part of the leadership team here, and where our future lies, what products and offerings we will have in the future are definitely I'm in that mix, and building out even better the tools and functions that we have as a team, right? So with any company, you've got the refinement of part of service delivery, but there's expectation setting, there's the right margins, the right mix of team members to get that all done, the refinement of how input is given at the beginning, the refinement of how edits or revisions are done. So bettering all of that makes you just more efficient. There's then better margins. There's better team members that join because they want to be in a successful, flourishing company. So I think everything all goes hand in hand, right? And it also provides a better level of experience for our customers, right? So it's like, great, if I can come on board, there's a simple onboarding process. There's a simple way in which we share the tracking of projects, the way we do delivery, the way we do, you get us your feedback in this way. It's super simple. And the way that we also deliver leads and ways that you guys can get more business on your side too, right? So is it, however that platform and structure works are all things that are on my roadmap for the next 5 years. Hopefully it doesn't take that long, but yes, build it and they will come. So they say.
No, look, it's look, I've enjoyed, in some ways watching your career. I mean, there was some spots in there. We had a bit of a gap, but I've seen, at the beginning of our career, together, if you will, and now, kind of at this part of it. Maybe we're probably in the middle. We got a couple decades left.
I hope so.
We can do this, but this feels like it starts to become the fun part, and leadership and driving teams and building businesses and processes and all the things that we're talking about. It's come a long way from those white hen billboards and those car ads. So I'm really happy for you, and I look forward to watching what Access Marketing does here in the coming years, and really excited for your growth, and hope it comes together.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully we all don't go completely white by the time we see each other. It'll be great.
Yeah, no. So Ed, thanks for taking the time. You, my friend, are definitely future driven, and I look forward to seeing more out of Access Marketing and Ed Cinefro. So thanks so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Really appreciate it.